Hello friends, welcome to my channel Together with Abhi. In this video, we are going to see how we can configure CLI. So in the past video, we had seen how to download and install CLI, the command line interface, which provides programmatic access to AWS. In this video, we are going to see how we can configure CLI so we can use it further and all the associated features with CLI. So let's get started. Fine, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to open the terminal. So here it is, I have opened the terminal. We are going to type in the command AWS -version just to check AWS CLI is installed properly. Yes, it is. Now let's try to just issue some command. Okay. So as we move on in the practical, I'm going to tell you more and more commands. So the way it works is AWS or CLI, it requires firstly the main command. So the main command could be something related to S3, it could be related to any other service like EC2, and then the subcommand. So in this case, AWS S3 LS. So what I'm saying is AWS CLI, please use S3 service and list down all the buckets, something like this. Yeah. But as you can see, it doesn't work. It is throwing us an error that unable to locate credentials. Now it is very obvious when we are trying to log in and access an AWS service, it must be associated to some account. But what is the account here? Nobody knows that. So we need to firstly configure this AWS CLI in such a way that we are able to tell CLI, please go to this account and fetch the output of certain command, right? So let's do that. So we are now logged in as administrator user, the user that we created last time. We are logged in using that. We first have to go to my security credentials. As most of the stuff related to security is going to be here, so we have to go into my security credentials. Now what you need to do is you need to create certain access keys. Okay, so if we read this, it says use access keys to make programmatic calls to AWS from the AWS command line interface. So one way could have been we should provide username and password of the administrator along with MFA. But for programmatic access, the mechanism that AWS has provided, we have to create some kind of access keys. It's a very simple thing to do. We just need to create access key and the key has been created for us. But an important point to note here is you cannot recover it later. Okay, this is the only time that the secret access key can be viewed or downloaded. So please keep this secret key very secure so you can access it later. We can also show it here. It's not a problem. We can also see it here. Yeah. So let's try to use it. Now the second thing that you also need to note when we are going to configure AWS CLI to map it to this account, we would also need to know the region. Now I believe I haven't told you earlier, but you can see all the regions associated here. This is the tab global where you can see all the regions. Okay, but it says IAM does not require region selection because I'm in the IAM service, so it doesn't require, but all the regions are here. But we would need, if in case, let's say I want to access an S3 service. S3 is one of the services in AWS. And if I use AWS CLI to access S3 service in some way, it will ask for a region. Okay. So that's why we would also have to configure region. So this is the region Asia Pacific Mumbai, which we say as AP South 1. So please note that also we are going to use it. Okay. So now let's get back to AWS CLI and let's configure it using the 8 access keys that we just created. So friends, we are again back to our terminal. The command which is required to configure is, it is mentioned already here, AWS configure. So So we are just going to run that command AWS configure. It asks for AWS access key. We already had it stored in the CSV file, so let's use it. Okay, it asks for secret access key. We have it stored here as well. Just going to copy paste it. Okay, now it asks for default region name. You can provide a default region name, or you might choose not to. I'm going to provide it AP South 1, which is for Asia Pacific Mumbai. And default output format, for now we are not providing it, but just wanted to let you know. So any command that we are going to issue, it is going to give you an output in some kind of format. This format could be text, this could be JSON, or any other format. By default, if in case we give nothing, it is going to use JSON. But we are going to see, we are going to change the text and we will see how it works. Yeah, for now, none. So it has been configured. Now let's try to run the same command which we tried to run last time. AWS, the main command name, which is the service name, S3 and ls. So currently, as we have not created anything within S3, it doesn't give you any output, which is okay. But the main thing to notice, it doesn't give you an error. Okay. However, just to show you that it works fine, we are going to now quickly issue another command. So this command works. Okay. So this is my main command EC2, which is corresponds to an EC2 service, and it describes all the regions. So it is working fine. Okay. You can go till the end of it. Tells you everything. Okay. Now, what is behind the scenes? There is something behind the scenes that I want to tell you. So within the home directory, what has been created, let's see. So if we go to, there's a hidden folder called as AWS. If you see, there are two files created here. One is the credentials, the other is config. Okay. What is there in the credentials? Let's see. So you see there is a default, this default tag which has been created, and there's a key value pair, the same key value pair that we provided. So the credentials are saved here. Okay. Let's go to another file, which is config file. And you see again here, the region that we provided has been stored in the configuration file. So now whenever we are actually issuing the command AWS S3ls, it is using this default configuration. But now by default, it is using admin user. Okay. But let's say you would not want to use admin user always. You might need a developer user. Okay. So what you would do, you would have to configure that user, but you want to name this profile something. So there is a mechanism to do that. So what we do is AWS configure. Okay. And let's say we name it profile equal to dev. Okay. Now it is again going to ask you access key and ID. Okay. Let's say we reconfigure the same thing because we have not created a developer user as of now. Okay. So we just create, we just going to provide the same access key and ID for now. Okay. So let's just provide the same thing. This is just for the testing purpose that I want to show you. Okay. And we copy paste this one as well. Okay. Default region name, nothing. We are not providing nothing here. So let's go and see what changes it has made to the files. Okay, we are in the same folders. Let's see. So you see here, they have created another key for dev, and it has got another access key or ID. For now, it is, though it is the same here, but it has been provided differently. Okay. Now also let's see our config file. You see, now there is a difference. Please note this difference. Okay. The name of any named profile is provided as profile dev. In this case, it was directly dev, but here it is profile dev. However, for the default, it remains the same. It doesn't start with profile default. So this is a key difference. However, it doesn't make any difference to you, but just something to note. Okay. Now, if in case tomorrow you have to use this profile, what you need to do is, let's say AWS S3LS hyphen hyphen profile, and you just need to provide dev. That's all. Yeah. Doesn't need, it would not work, but again, we will try it for describe regions hyphen hyphen profile equal to dev. You must specify a region because we have not specified a region, so we can again specify it with the same thing, or else what we can do, we will just go and edit the file. We are going to edit the config file here. Okay, so let's add the region equal to AP South 1. Let's also save this file now. Let's just quickly verify. More clear, more config. It is good. Now let's try to run the same command. Okay, so it works. So this way, what you can do is you can create certain named profiles, and instead of using the default profile all the time, you can just use the name profile. Now you see the output here is in the JSON format. Okay, if you want to change the format, how would you change the format of the output? Let's take a quick look at that as well. So to change the format, again, we will come to the config file and let's change it for profile dev. So we are going to change the output to text. Okay, let's do that. We save the file and let's try to run this command. And you see now the output is in the text format. We can also do this, directly from here also. If in case you write hyphen hyphen output equal to another format, let's say YAML. Okay, so it provides you in the YAML format. So there are different ways of doing it directly from here. So in essence, what we have learned is firstly, to configure, we need AWS configure command by default. If in case you do not provide any profile, it uses the default profile, which is stored in the credentials file, configuration, which is the format, output format, and the regions, etc. They are stored in the config file. If in case you want to create a name profile, you can do it AWS configure hyphen hyphen profile. These get saved again as key value pairs or within the bracket AWS configure in the credentials and the config file. Okay, you can change the format, you can play around with this. So this is about the name profile. Now there's another important thing to it. We would not want to always provide all this, so maybe you can set a default as dev profile, or else there's a mechanism of environment variables also. Okay, so we come to this URL on Amazon documentation. If you see here, it has provided the link to environment variables to configure the AWS CLI. So there are certain variables, supported environment variables like AWS access key ID. The entire list is provided here. You can go through that. So let's say AWS profile. There is one way you can always have this default behavior, right? But if in case you want to override this default behavior, so you can create an environment variable with the name AWS profile. You can say export AWS underscore profile equal to dev. Okay, so by default it is always going to use a dev profile. However, if you want to override it with something else, so let's say you also have a QA profile. So if we want that the setting of environment variables is overridden by the QA profile, then you have to provide hyphen hyphen profile. Okay, So the example is shown here. You can do something like this, export AWS access key, things like that. So we are also going to be using these examples. We are going to be working in the similar fashion. As we go through the practical more and more demos, we will use this. But the important thing to note is there is a mechanism for environment variables also to provide you an ability, the capability to work with AWS CLI in a smooth fashion. This is all that we had to tell today. Let's see you in the next video. If you really like my video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for your time.